Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Today we're talking about how to move from a cost center to a growth driver. This is for leaders in customer success, founders, C-levels, heads of customer success. We're going to spend roughly 30 minutes together, and we will give you all the material from today. You will get that. You will get the recording, the presentation, and everything. I'm Johan Nilsson. I'm a founder and CEO of Start Deliver. And before we get into today's topic, which is a huge topic and something I'm very passionate about, I want to share a little bit who we are. So Start Deliver, we make a customer success platform. So we make a tool for customer success teams, organizations. That's one part of what we do. What we also do is that we are driving the Impact Academy together with Lincoln Murphy, which is a training academy for customer success management. It's for leaders, it's for customer success managers. So that's also one part of what we do. And make sure to check out the training programs. Of course, make sure to check out our platform. But also for anyone in the Nordics, close to the Nordics at least, of course, you're happy to travel here as well. Make sure to mark the 14th of September. We're going to have the second year of Impact Day. It's a full day all about customer success in Stockholm. So make sure to join that. It's going to be awesome. 400 people, all about customer success. So that's a little bit about us and what we do. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. And as I mentioned, you will get this content from us. But bringing it back to today's topic, customer success, anyone who's new to that, it's not a brand new thing, but it's something that's really exploding lately. It's a hugely, highly growing topic. This is from Google search. Looking back 10 years, you can see the curve, it's going straight up. I think it's quite interesting if we zoom in on just 2021, you see a little bit of a drop there. Things were going really well for SaaS businesses. Then it goes up again in 2022 when it's a little bit more rougher path for most of us. So it's just interesting to see that little bit development last couple of years here. But customer success is growing. It's becoming more and more household. But this webinar is all about what we believe is that there is still a lot of potential to do more in this area. And I'll get back to that, of course, later today. But that's the main message today, is that for you leaders of SaaS business, founders, C-level, we see a lot of improvements that can be done in the area of customer success. These are some of the questions we get from our academy, from all our engagements with customer success teams, from leaders in SaaS. And one common question is, how many customers can a CSM manage? Can we scale customer success without personal contact? Do we need customer success if we go product-led growth? Do we need a customer success platform? Who should be responsible for upgrades? Who should customer success report to? So these are questions that we get, and these are super questions, by the way, and I just want to mention that as well. We have a podcast where the only thing we do is answer these type of very practical, very direct questions within the field of customer success. It's called Impact Weekly. So every week we answer a question. So a lot of these we have already covered if you want to go into the specifics. But the main picture here, and what this little bit boils down to, is that a lot of time when thinking of customer success, people put on their accountant hat. And they look at how can we save money here? Can we add more customers per CSM? Can we automate so we don't have to have as many customer success managers? And that's something we are all for automation. We're all for building a great product that the user can grow through without interaction. We're all for product tours, for great knowledge base, great automated emails, automated messaging, and so on. But I think most of us get this a little bit wrong, and we think more as a service organization that we want to cut cost here, and that's a big difference between customer success and traditional businesses like industries, if you go manufacturing and similar, where you kind of always try to cut cost. Here we believe it's fundamental difference where of course you can look at automating things and making things better for the customer, but you should not think of a customer success team and a customer success organization as a cost center. So if you focus on this small red bar here where it says cost, we believe you should move that to focus rather on how this can be a growth center, how this can actually grow the ARR for you. And I will shortly share a little bit more on that. I think this is a big mindset change. And it's very common that we get stuck and we don't see a lot happening within the field of customer success because we have this cost center hat on. I will share today how you can move from that hat, bring on the growth hat, and what that requires. But I think that's a big shift that needs to come from top up, from the top level. So basically from the founders, from the CEO, from the C-level. We need to make sure that we invest in customer success. That's the only way we're going to reap all the fruits from this. And what are the fruits? So what we talked about now is how customer success is a growth driver. I think you know all about this already, but I want to share this and I want to emphasize this because we tend to forget about how big of a thing this is. So if we first look at retention, basically, if we have a churn rate of 10%, that means that the customer on average will stay for 10 years. So a customer will stay for 10 years. That's quite a long period of time. I think sometimes we underestimate the significance of that number. 10 years, that's huge, right? So retention is one part. And this is a study now from 300 companies, SaaS businesses in the US. And if you look between the different tiers here, you might have, if you're between $0 to $10 million in ARR, the top performers are around 7% churn. If you're between 10 million and 20 million, it's around 8%. And if you're 20 to 50 million, it's 6% as top performers. So if you have 7% churn, that means roughly 14 years, right? So even more. So that's the significance in this in retaining customers. If we can lower our churn rate, customers will stay for a very long time. Everybody knows this, but I think it's still important to just emphasize this significance. And we kind of forget about it. If they stay with us, the second layer of this is that they can, if we make that happen, if we enable that, they can grow with us. And this is where expansion comes in. So a customer that's staying with us, they also will have the opportunity to grow with us. We'll talk more about that later, but basically that's a huge thing as well, because that means that we can improve our net revenue retention. And net revenue retention, I think you all know what that is, but basically net revenue retention is how many customers, how much revenue that when we started the year is at the end of the year, basically. And this is also a study from this is a report basically from the US. It's European and US companies in this, but basically they have plotted out where do most SaaS businesses end up. The median here is 109% net revenue retention. But just a basic or a key metric to think of here is if we can have 125% net revenue retention, we will double our business in 3 years without bringing in any new customers. And that's huge, of course. So basically, without any sales, we will double in 3 years. That's the significance of net revenue retention. And of course, that's a quite high number. And I know that's really the top performer level. But still, if we can move every year up there will be a huge difference in how we can grow. And the opposite is true here as well, of course. If we are if we have a low net revenue retention rate, we will have trouble growing as well. So back to this. So we make sure the customers stay, we enable them to grow with us. And the third part of this is that when we do that, and if we do that really well, we will have customers that love our product, that become advocates, that will tell others about us, that we can use in reviews, we can use them as testimonials, and so on. And anyone who's been in sales know that how important reviews are. And anyone in sales knows how important it is to be able to send the customer a prospect to refer to speak to another customer. Those are the obvious things, but also advocates, they talk outside of our knowledge. They talk to friends, they talk to family, and if they really love our product, if they get a lot of value from working with us, they will tell others. And that will help us bring in new customers, and from a growth perspective, that's going to be huge. We will also actually lower our own cost of acquiring customers by having ambassadors and other advocates talking about our product. Another part of this that I think is really important and we don't talk about enough is that these people, these individuals that are users of our product, many of them will move on in their career. They might leave the company they're in presently, and they will get to another company. And I think most of you out there probably have seen it happening, that they were a customer at company A, they moved to company B, and what they did was that they brought in us at that company as well. So this is where we talk about eternal users, people that are strong individuals that are advocates for us. They will also stay users, even if they change their business they're in, they go to another company and so on. That's also a huge factor here. All these things come from doing customer success. So I just want to, I think these are not new things for you listening now, but I think it's important to emphasize the power of these. And some of these, like, they can be short term, you can impact them short term. Some of these will take a little bit longer time, but it all comes down to how you view customer success and how much you invest in it, and how much focus you put on it as a leader. And if we go back to customer success, what is customer success? Let's just throw it up there. This is our definition. It comes from Lincoln Murphy, my partner at Impact Academy. Basically, customer success is when our customers achieve their desired outcome through the relationship with us. So very simple definition. So what's the problem? Let's just do this and we'll be fine, right? That could be the take on this. And I think on a theory level, this is very easy. If we just keep making our customers successful, they will stay forever. We will get all these good, great things out of it. Here comes the challenge. And that's what I want to focus in on today. We at Impact Academy, we train thousands of customer success managers. And the most common challenge we hear and we get asked about, and what they want help with is this: customers will not respond. Customers will ghost you, whatever the term might be. And this can be many reasons, of course, and it can it has variances around it, but this is the reality here. So we try to make our customer successful. The customer will not respond. And the main thing here that people miss, that we as leaders miss, that we need to cater for, that we need to plan for, that we need to process for, it's what we call that we miss what happens on the customer side, on our side, the dynamics of change. That's why when we struggle in customer success, we miss these dynamics. I will get back to you, get back soon to what that is, but that's why someone will ghost you. That's why we can't reach through. That's why we can't set this meeting with this stakeholder we want. That's why not this super user is responding. That's why these users are not logging in, whatever the problem might be. or what we are trying to achieve. We have missed something, what we call the dynamics of change. And let's get into that. So if we start just mapping this out and looking at these life cycle stages, the normal life cycle stages of a customer, we have the onboarding phase. They have signed up and we're about to onboard them to our product. We have the adoption phase, that after onboarding, they're adopting this for a larger group of users, for more teams, for more features, an adoption phase. And then we have the engagement phase, which is probably where most customers are. And this is where we have customers that have been with us for a while. Of course, they can re-adopt some parts of the platform, or even sometimes we need to re-onboard them. But these are typical phases. And let's look now at a few things that goes on here that have significant impact on how we need to work with the customers, that are easily missed. Some are more missed than others, but let's go into them. And this is going to be the way to look at it in order to really have customer success teams excelling at their work. And if we start by looking at onboarding and on the customer side. So if we look at onboarding, basically they have now bought our product. What they also bought is that they have to change their behaviors. This is not usually as clear and as understood perhaps by the organization, but it's a fact. They bought our product to do things in a better way. And that can go smooth or it can be hurdles, but we need to be aware that this is a part of the onboarding. What usually also happens during onboarding is that there is a change of stakeholders. The person that signed the agreement is perhaps not as engaged anymore, and there's perhaps a new stakeholder coming in. So change happening there. When we get into the adoption phase, this is post onboarding, and now maybe the reality hits. Now it's we're comparing what we have against what we were promised, or our vision on how things would work. And it might be both that our vision of how we would like to improve things or how we would like to do things are not as reality is not matching our vision. It can also be that some things that were discussed in the sales process are not happening in the same way as we thought. That's that can be some part of change as well. New users, usually during the adoption phase, we add more teams, we add more divisions, whatever happens there, depending on the product, of course. Also a potential change happening there. In the engagement phase, this is where the customer develops. They might change their direction, they set new goals, they change their leadership team, they change stakeholders, they change things happen on the customer side as well. Perhaps not in the first couple of weeks, but in 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever years, things will happen for sure. So these are things going on the customer side. On our side, we also have change. So on our side, after sign, most of the time, there will be a new person being in charge of onboarding. There is a handover part. There is a change of contact part here. Definitely, I think most of us know about this type of change, and we have managed it through processes and so on. But there is a lot of times we set up customers for churn by missing things here as well on our side. When we go into an adoption phase, this is where we can have product gaps in our product compared to what the customer wants or needs or have even thought they bought. There can be customer fit gaps here where we basically have wrong type of customers coming in. All that type of thing will play into the potential of success for this customer. And in the engagement phase, as we develop our product, as we bring in new capabilities in our product as features and so on, that's change. We are also acting on a market in an ecosystem. We have competitors. External factors will also have an impact on how we will also change how we engage, how we work through the engagement phase with our customers. So a lot of things happening here in this different life cycle stages, and this is where customer success management is basically the foundation to manage this if it's done right. And I think this is where we miss things, and this is where we need to address to make this work. And how we see world-class leaders do this is by focusing on three things in particular: insights, competence, and motivation. Those are the three things, and let's dig into those. So number one, insights. We need to know where the customer is and how they're doing. We need to have data on that. We need to have the full picture on how things are going. And we see this so many times when talking to customer success teams that they don't have this. They work through their inbox. Customers sending emails to them, they act on those. They have to look in many different data sources to understand where the customer is, what's going on, what's happening, to track all these developments, the changes that we looked at previously. They can't see that, and then they default to just working with the customers that are reaching out to them, sending them emails, maybe calling them even. There's a lot of gaps here usually. Another type of gap is that we have the data, or we have these insights, but we have them in a very complicated tool. We have it in a BI tool. They get a report. It's very hard to act on. So to get this right, these need to be data-driven, these insights for sure. We need to remove all the gut feel in this, and they need to be actionable. So they need to be easy to understand, easy to take action on. Then these type of insights will be useful. Number two here is competence. And competence, I would say, is also something that's very often overlooked. And competence is, just to be clear here, it's basically when you have, if you have the insights, do you know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, basically. And I would say a lot of time, the customer success team has maybe been, or on the junior side, they have been, maybe you promoted someone that was in support or product. There is a lot of gaps when it comes to competence. One of the most common things we work with Impact Academy is that there is a lack of confidence in doing the customer success work from the customer success team. They don't know how to do the things they're supposed to be doing. So competence on the customer success team is really key to achieve the growth that we talked about earlier. And what's needed here, it's not to have. Sometimes we think that customer success managers needs to be product experts, or they need to be nice to the customer. What really is needed is to be able to talk to all the stakeholders, to talk about their business goals, to be able to break through when they have objections, and to make things happen on the customer side. And that's usually quite a lot of different competences than compared to being in a support role at the company. So there's a huge difference here between having the right competence and not having the competence. So that's number two. Number three here, and this is if you have number one and you have number two and you lack number three, nothing will matter. So number three is motivation. And motivation is all about what is our culture? What is our intent? What are we measuring? This was a post from Jason Lemkin at SaaStr recently, where he basically saying that customer success have gone from being an ally, i.e. your friend, to the nemesis, basically your enemy. So that's quite a harsh comment. And what he's coming from here is that he basically was giving, he's basically got sold to when he was not very happy with one of his vendors. And this type, I would say this is quite common as well. And this comes back to your leadership. It comes back to what kind of culture we are setting. What are we focusing on? Are we really about doing customer success, or are we just about sending more invoices to our customers? And this is something that's it can go. It starts on the top in the leadership team, but it's really important that this is consistent through all the levels in the company. Because if we don't have real intent in our customer success work, this will not pay off. So it's very important what the leadership team is saying, even more important what they're doing and what they're acting on and what they're measuring. So KPIs are very important here. In this example, Lemkin shared here, and I've seen this many times as well, is basically if we focus on expansion, just hitting the numbers, and we're not focusing about customers actually achieving their goals, and that's associated with expansion, then we will end up sales or doing new business sales style on customer success, and that's a very quick way to ruin the relationship and set the customer up for churn. So very important part of this is to have the right motivation, basically sending the right message to the customer success team. So let's look at a few case studies here to make this a little bit more concrete. This is a customer that we've been working with that's basically around 15 million euro ARR. It's a SaaS business, fintech company. They have very low churn, but very low expansion as well, and low adoption of all the functionality, quite service intense company. And they were basically looking at how can we increase the delivered value to our customer and by that grow our expansion. And this customer was seeing some of the churn, and some of the threat they saw was that they had very low adoption. So if some competitor came up and just solved that problem at a lower price point, then there could actually be an increase in churn later on as well. But the main focus here was to increase the value they delivered through the platform by basically increasing adoption. By doing that, they would get more advocates, the happier customers basically, and they would drive up expansion. And how they did this, if we go back to what we talked about through these life cycle stages and these 3 things to drive customer success management, they looked at insights. So they needed to have insights on they wanted to know, they basically could say, based on the maturity of the customer, they could say when they were ready to do more in the platform, based on employees, based on the phase the customer was in and the industry the customer was in. They could measure it in usage. They could see if they were using parts of the platform. We need to set up goals based on the maturity level to make them make the jump to the next level in the platform, basically. So they identified these insights that they needed. The second part of this was to understand they needed new competence in the group to do this. They were not used to talking about the new goals with the customer. Basically, after onboarding, the customer were more or less on their own. So they needed to work on competence around goal discovery, around orchestration and joint accountability. So very specific skills that was needed by the team to do this. And the motivation here now came from the leadership team. They realized that they were basically unutilizing the platform and the customer base. They understood that they needed to do that to keep both competition away, but also to make the customers actually more successful. And to do that, then they basically moved some of this. They were very heavy on service, but they were not talking about customer success. They were not doing customer success. So they did make a switch for the team to focus on customer success rather than service. So that's one case study. Another case, this is another type of company. We were talking with, this is another customer. It was driven by the CRO. They were doing roughly 9 million euro ARR, and they had a big churn problem. And they were basically looking at how can we drive down the churn. Retention would be improved with this, of course. And of course, very importantly to mention also advocacy. Of course, like you can have negative advocates out there as well. And if you have a lot of churn, that most likely will have people on the streets talking bad about you or your product. So that will definitely have an impact also on your advocacy. And just to get back to this framework, so they identified a few things they needed to get insights on, and they wanted to know after onboarding, is the customer having progress? And they could measure the progress both in terms of usage, but also progress in terms of setting up a new goal with the customer. And the new goal could be after onboarding, they had an initial goal, but after onboarding, they needed to set up a new type of goal. So they needed new insights, or they identified new insights that they needed to measure on. And they also identified a few things that were not working they didn't have competence doing in the team as well. And one part was managing these progress milestones. So post onboarding, we need to set another milestone, and how do we manage that? How do we get the stakeholder and the customer behind that? They also had to set up build the competence around how do we turn around the customer? How do we go from an at-risk scenario situation with a customer to getting them involved, engaged, and up and running again? And there was a lot of competence needed around that, and they also had needed to work through an objection breakthrough where a lot of times they were shut down by the senior stakeholders, and to get through they needed competence around how to work with objections. Very specific competences needed, and the motivation behind this was, of course, high churn rate. They were sharing this with investors. They were going to raise capital, and they had problem with these type of high churn numbers. So very high motivation coming that way. But the key thing was that they understood that they needed to move focus of the team and the organization from a more expansion type of sales-oriented focus to a retention focus. So these are few examples on how to work with this framework, and how to work with customer success management in practice to get this growth happening. We are on time here. Just to summarize, customer success is a growth driver. You need to invest in your organization to get there. Customer success is all about managing and thriving in change. Leaders, you, me, everyone leading a customer success organization, we need to build insights, competence, and motivation to make this happen. That's it in a nutshell. Thank you for listening, and see you all soon.